Hello everyone and welcome to the February update for the Digital Tolkien Project. So I've got two fairly big things, one very big thing to talk about today. Two tools that I've been working on the last few weeks. But before I get to those, I want to briefly say something. This will segue into actually the first tool. But I want to talk a little bit about the talk that I gave. Was it last weekend? Gosh, yes, I think it was. At Sunshine Moot, where I was talking about tracing the tale of Túrin, how the Digital Tolkien Project is exploring the relationship between the texts of the Túrinsaga. I'm not going to talk a ton about this because I've talked about this in previous videos quite a bit. The work that I'm doing to better understand the relationship between the various versions of what I call the Túrinsaga. But there are a couple of new things that I put together for this presentation, and I just want to quickly go through some of them, and this will segue nicely into the first of the tools that I want to demonstrate for you. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is you think this conceptualization. I was trying to explain to people in the talk that when we're working with the history of Middle-earth, we're not directly working with the versions of the texts, right? That the history of Middle-earth, unlike something like the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit, right? The history of Middle-earth is a container for different writings that Christopher's put together that exist on manuscripts and typescript of his father, and obviously interspersed with notes and commentary and so on. It's actually a little bit more complicated than that because, of course, we're dealing with things being crossed out, marginal notes, writers being inserted, and so on. So what we're really dealing with, what Christopher's putting together and what is really at the heart of what we're doing in the Digital Tolkien Project is working with essentially idealized manuscripts. Right, so as an example of this, in the case of the Lay of the Children of Húrin, the alliterative verse, if you consider not only the different manuscripts that we have, but the different layers of emendation and so on, you can potentially end up with as many as 9 different versions of the poems. But Christopher essentially presents 2. And in terms of what I'm trying to do at the Digital Tolkien Project, comparing versions of the story, I'm essentially dealing with 2 because we don't have direct access to the manuscripts, and they're very fragmentary. Even if we did, we've got these idealized manuscripts that we're dealing with. So that concept. This is the first time I've drawn a diagram like this. I'd be interested in what people think about this sort of way of conceiving of it. Another thing that I just wanted to show you, here's a sort of example actually of what I'm talking about here. These are 9 different variations that exist for this one line of poetry, depending on what layer of emendation you're talking about. But one of the things that I've been working on is both manual and automated alignment of different versions, right? And I've shown some of this in past videos. I've shown sort of side-by-side views of the Nánachín Húrin, against the Silmarillion text, or things like that. And I'll show you some new visualizations that I did of that in a moment. But I've started to explore more and more sort of automated ways of helping do that alignment If you're trying to take the two main versions of the poem and align them, it would take a lot of work to go through that manually. And so I'm looking for ways of sort of partially automating that and then manually making corrections. And I just want to briefly say I'm playing around with a bunch of things. If you saw my MythMoot talk 2.5 years ago, I talked a lot about using n-grams, consecutive sequences of n words that are shared between two texts, as a way of indicating how things line up. That doesn't work particularly well for lines of poetry because they're too short. You can take an approach of looking at what's referred to as bag of words, where you just look at what lines have the same words as other lines. What lines in version A have the same words in them as version B. One thing I've been just started to play around with is actually using embeddings, which are a part of large language models, to help identify semantically similar words. One of the things that you can do, for example, is if you compare these two lines, that the top line in each pair is from the first version of the poem, the next from is the equivalent line in the other version. You have something like the Orcs of Angband in Evil Bonds, or Orcs of Angband and Evil Things. They match pretty well in terms of bag of words. N-grams, you don't get anything more than 3 words in a row, so it's probably, unless if you're doing n-grams for n more than 3, it's not going to do a great job. But what I've been playing around with is this sort of identifying or measuring the distance, the sort of how much things match based on these embeddings, which take more into account sort of the semantics. And it's interesting, you look at something like the second one, and normally any other kind of approach to matching these lines up would struggle with air and sun. But anything that's familiar with the sort of semantics behind it will score this reasonably well. It knows that air and sun do mean the same thing. So in the sort of approach that I've been playing around with, you actually get a 90% match between these two lines, which is really nice. I'm going to continue to work on this. I'm going to show you in a moment, though, a new tool that I built a couple of weeks ago. Well, actually, no, I didn't build it a couple of weeks ago. I built it earlier this week because I did not have it built in time to show it at the conference talk, which is a tool for manually improving the alignments once a certain amount of automation has been done. I'll show that in a moment, but I want to just quickly show you a couple of new n-gram-based visualizations that I did for the talk. This one I've shown before, but for those of you who may not have seen this, this is showing where 7-gram, or a consecutive sequence of 7 words, is shared between the Silmarillion at the top or the Children of Túrin at the bottom. So this is the entire Silmarillion at the top, and you can see where most of the lines are coming from is chapter 21, of course, although you get a lot of chapter 20 as well. You get a section of 18 and some of 22 as well. So these are parts of the Silmarillion that exist word for word, or at least in 7-word chunks at a minimum, in the Children of Túrin. So you can sort of get a sense of what the relationship is. This is old, but what I had not done until last week was the same thing for the Children of Túrin and the Nanachin Húrin in the Unfinished Tales. And this is unsurprising how much it lines up, because the Túrin of Túrin is largely based on the same document that was used in Unfinished Tales. What's interesting is this so clearly shows the bits that Christopher skipped from the Narn document in Unfinished Tales. So the bottom is Children of Túrin, and the bottom is the Unfinished Tales. The top is the Children of Túrin, and you can see there are bits in the Children of Túrin, these big gaps that are not in Unfinished Tales, and they pretty much correspond to. They're the places where Christopher decided not to repeat the story, that part of the Narn document in Unfinished Tales, because it was so close to what had been used in the Silmarillion, what he'd used in the Silmarillion. And you can see that by combining these two. So this is another new thing that I did, was combining these two. So at the top, you've got the entire Silmarillion. In the middle, you've got the Children of Húrin. And at the bottom, you've got just the Narn chapter of Unfinished Tales. And you can see that the bits that were skipped out, missing from the Unfinished Tales version, are largely filled in by the bits that come from the Silmarillion. So this is not new information. This is something that Christopher actually spells out in both endnotes in Unfinished Tales, and also in the appendices in the Children of Húrin book. But it's nice to see this visualized. One of the things, though, that I've always wanted to do is better, integrate this into an actual reading environment. And so coming back to this task that I was working on, didn't quite get to it in time to present last weekend, but I'm showing it to you now, of aligning the two versions of the Lay of the Children of Húrin poem in volume 3 of Home, the Lays of Beleriand. I ended up building this tool that I'm actually really excited to show you. So this is, let me get rid of, I can leave myself there. I'm not blocking too much, I don't think. Here we have the two versions of the poem that are presented in the Lays of Beleriand. And what I've done, you can scroll these independently and look at the whole poem. But what I did was I first of all did an alignment purely based on a 100% match. So if two lines are identical in version 1 and version 2 of the poem, I linked them, and that's shown by this thick line you can see here. And then I built this interface that lets you add additional links as you find them. And this has actually been really, really nice. One of the things you can also do is you can zoom out and sort of see the big picture. So now this starts to resemble that sort of visualization that you saw from the previous slides, but now you can actually zoom in and see where the links are. And you can, as I said, you can scroll these independently and see where various things match up. But the real power of this is not just in the viewing, but also in the ability to add new links. And in fact, all of the thin links that you see here are ones that I manually added. So if I go down to, let me find a bit that I have yet to make much progress on. So you can see here I've done a lot of linking here. Now, of course, in the second version, you get this inclusion of part of the tale of Beren and Luthien in the middle of the Children of Húrin poem, and all of a sudden switches to rhyming couplets. But then we get back here. So I'm going to start here and sort of show you how this works, because this will be interesting. So having these exact matches kind of anchors you to being able to see how the rest of it works. And this is something that it's turned out to be really, really helpful to have those anchors where the lines are identical, because then you can much more easily find lines and eyeball them. So I haven't yet really incorporated much of that fuzzy matching, either using embeddings or engrams or anything like that yet here. This is manual now, but it's really fun to work with. So you can sort of see the tear drenched field and the field tear drenched, these two, and flame and terror versus the terror and the fire. So what you can do is actually click the two versions, and what it calculates here, this 26 here, is actually a really simple measure of the relationship between the two lines. It's what's called a Levenshtein distance, which is basically the number of characters that you would have to insert or delete to get from A to B. And so the lower the number, if the two things are identical, the distance would be 0. If there's a 1 character difference between them, it will be 1. In this case, 26 is pretty good actually. But what I can do is I can just click this and oh, it's reloaded. That's annoying. That's gonna, don't know why it did that, but that's very frustrating. I lost it. What it actually did is it's added that line now. Wonder how that came about. That's very frustrating. Where was it? It looks like it's maybe I've hit a bug or something. I don't know. Where was I? I don't even remember where I was. I should put line. I do have line numbers here, but I wasn't paying attention to what the line numbers were. Hey, let me try again. Let me see. I'm just looking to see if there's anything we can link here, because this looks like it could be. Here's the Baron and Luthien poem, so we'll come back to here and see if we can find anything. Okay, so these 2 lines only have a Levenshtein distance of 15, so we can join these. Let's see if I got the same problem again. Oh, wow. Don't know what's causing that. I haven't seen that problem before. Oh, I think I know what it is, but I'm not going to bother fixing it live now. Anyway, so this is a very early version of a tool that I just started working on actually last weekend to manually align. And this is the poetry, but I'm excited to try it out with prose as well. I think I showed in a previous video some work I've been doing aligning a sketch of the mythology with a Quentin Alderinwer and so on, and I'm looking forward to using this interface to do that. Okay, so that's one tool that I've been working on. The second tool that I've spent a lot more time on, I started 2 weeks ago, and it's come along really, really nicely. I'm really happy with it. And it's something that I've wanted to do for at least a year now, which is come up with a better way of producing what I've called Little Delvings. So about 2 years ago, I'd been posting for longer than this, but about 2 years ago I decided to call them Little Delvings. These are these various sort of infographic things, charts and quotes and diagrams and stuff like that I post on social media. And sometimes they're things that I've used in conference talks, sometimes they're completely new things. And what I normally do is, I post them used to post them to Twitter. I was posting them for a while to Instagram. And I had started to post them to a dedicated site, delvings.digitaltolkien.com. I didn't get very far with this because there was a huge overhead in producing these. Every single one of them was a little different, and it wasn't really easily reproducible. The process of posting them to social media was a real pain, very manual. And so I'd envisaged for a long time having some sort of system for automating especially the posting, but also the to a certain extent the formatting and everything of these Little Delvings. And my kind of thinking around this was I wanted to basically have some tool that let me pull data from drawn from various Digital Tolkien data sources, whether it's the texts themselves or various annotations and so on. I wanted to be able to aggregate and summarize that information in Python. So I wanted to use the Python programming language to sort of do the data manipulation. What I really wanted to do, and there are tools that, obviously a lot of people produce great visualizations using Python, things like Matplotlib and Seaborn and stuff like that, or they use the R programming language. R isn't as great for the data manipulation side of the sort of data manipulation stuff I do. So for example, for my master's dissertation, I wrote Python code to do data manipulation and then spat out R scripts that I then ran to produce the charts for my dissertation and so on. It was a really, really cumbersome thing. And I wanted some way of sort of doing all that in Python, but I wanted to do the styling of it using web standards. I didn't want to be writing proprietary code to sort of style things. I wanted to use things like CSS and SVG and so on. And so that was another requirement I had. I wanted it to be abstract enough that I could sort of build a common design system for all of these little delvings so that they sort of had a consistent look and feel. I wanted to make them a lot more reproducible and encourage reuse. So for example, if there was a mistake found in the data, I could rerun the relevant little delvings and produce them just at sort of a push of a button. And I wanted to be able to produce a gallery so you could go to delvings.digitaltolkien.com to see them all. And I wanted to automate the posting to social media. And so I'm super excited to say that I started work on this 2 weeks ago. And I'm really, really happy with the way it's turned out. The only thing that's really, really missing at this stage is that last part, the automate posting to social media. That's something that I'm going to be working on soon. But in terms of actually producing these, many of the types of infographics, the little delvings that I've produced in the past, I can now do using this new system. And those of you who follow, I can't remember if I've mentioned the name of it in Discord, but certainly on Blue Sky, I mentioned a couple of times that the overall system is called Belladonna, after Bilbo Baggins' mother, Belladonna Took. And actually, throughout the code, you'll see in a moment when I show it running and stuff, that I use the metaphor of baking a lot. So basically, Belladonna is baking these infographics, these little delvings, using a recipe. But then I wanted to continue this metaphor a bit, and so the gathering of the data that's needed to make the little delvings is the harvesting of the data, if you like, is handed off to a little tool called Holman, after Holman Cotton. And so Holman goes and harvests the data, and then Belladonna uses it to produce the kinds of infographics that I'm about to show in a moment. And I'm going to, of course, call the posting to social media the quick post. I haven't decided yet whether there's going to be a role for bounders and the watch and stuff like that at this stage. But it's been fun sort of conceptualizing this in terms of Shire metaphors. One of the things that I'm most excited about, though, is that I decided that I really wanted a logo for Belladonna, for this project. I don't often go to the extent of getting a logo for my open source projects. I should mention that I haven't open sourced the code yet, but my plan is that this will be an open source project, and hopefully it will be useful for other people as well, doing non-Tolkien related stuff. But anyway, I decided that I wanted a logo, and there was only one person that I knew right from the start was the person I wanted to design the image for me. And that's MG Coco, who I know wasn't. I don't know if you're still in the chat, but we've collaborated before. Actually, if I go back to the Instagram, so this was my previous collaboration with MG Coco. This was the little poem that I wrote that she illustrated. So there was no question that that's exactly who I wanted to go to for the logo. So I'm going to unveil the logo now, and then I will show you what Belladonna is capable of. So here we go. This is the logo for Belladonna, and I'm absolutely, yay! You're there. Good. So this is the amazing the image on the left. Drawn by MG Coco is it's absolutely what I wanted. I'm so happy with it. And I just encourage you to all to check out MG Coco's work, and she's available for commissions. Does absolutely wonderful work, and I certainly encourage you to check her work out, and I'll include a link to this in the description below. Okay, so let me just show you a little bit more about what Belladonna produces. So this is a gallery of the sorts of things that Belladonna has so far produced. You'll see, I'll go back up to the top. It's not just charts and stuff, but often I want, let me just get rid of myself, just so you can see all of this in its full glory. Sometimes I want to post quotes to social media. And so this is a really, really easy way of generating that in a consistent way. What I used to have to do is like bring up a Google Slides or something like that. One of the things that it can also do is, of course, because the Digital Tolkien Project has the text easily referenceable with the citation system, you can even ask Holman to go grab a particular, give it a, tell Holman, I want 5.005 from The Hobbit. Holman will go fetch that. Belladonna will bake this nice image. But you can see I've got some of the other sorts of frequency visualizations that I've done. Charts like this that can handle both single series and multiple series. I even used Belladonna to produce the title card for this talk. And I can do quite advanced things. What's really great about this is once I work out how I want a particular type of Little Delving to look, I basically write it up as a recipe, and it's parameterized, so you can sort of give it different things. Like here I say I want to do the Hobbit, here I want to do Lord of the Rings, here I want to do the Silmarillion, or up here I want to do Frodo. And I'll show you in a moment, you just need to you just specify the parameters and it can redraw the whole thing. I even used it, I've incorporated now the visualizations of the engram stuff so Belladonna can draw those too now. And in fact, what I showed you before, the Belladonna logo with the text is also done by Belladonna herself, and the title card and thumbnail for the video I just did yesterday was also just done with Belladonna. So it's a really, really nice way of letting me use web technologies to put together these in a very reproducible way. So let me just I just want to quickly show you how it all works. So I'll jump back here. Well, one thing I can show you actually, if I go to something like Mentions of Frodo, if I click on this is the actual image that it produces. And if I scroll down, you can see it says that the recipe used was term frequency by Lord of the Rings book. So this is a recipe that I've written once. It'll work for any word that appears in Lord of the Rings. You say what you want the title to be, and then you say what the term is that you want it to count, and it will go produce this. And in fact, if you give it more than one term, you can do things like this, and it can handle that and knows how to make the legend and everything like that. So it's really, really simple once the recipe has been constructed to run things. So I might actually run something live. It's always dangerous to do live demos, but I'm going to try just to show you how the whole thing sort of works. So if I swap over here, this is how you get Belladonna to bake the Mentions of Frodo by Lord of the Rings book. You say what Little Delving number it is, what recipe you want to run, and then different recipes will have different parameters that you need to pass in. And so, for example, the sad versus happy comparative frequency, which was this one here. That's a different recipe. You have to tell it what books you want to look at and what terms, the two terms, the positive and the negative, and so that's what you set up here. So there's this sort of idea that and you can see the analogy going through. There's a pantry and there's a mixing bowl and all sorts of stuff like that. I had a lot of fun using all these various metaphors. So let me actually show you. Let me first of all, that's one thing I want to show. I'll actually just run with what I've got so far. So you can tell it to bake delvings, and Belladonna is ready to bake. And so you'll see occasionally Holman is harvesting. So that's when Holman is going off to search Tolkien or some other data source to get the data that Belladonna needs to feed into the recipe to bake the delving. One of the things that I just added this morning, actually, last night and this morning, was Belladonna actually keeps a log of what she's baked and exactly the parameters that we used. Actually, technically for the programmers here, it actually does a SHA hash of the code and the parameters. And so basically what it means, though, is that Belladonna knows when she's already done it. So if I tell Belladonna to bake again, you'll see it's instantaneous because it knows no change to recipe or arguments skipping. And so this is really nice because what it means, there's this whole sort of dependency analysis that it does, that it works out, has anything changed in terms of the code or the templates or the data that means that I need to re-bake this delving. And so I can very, very easily rebuild the whole thing, but it works out just what needs to be rebuilt. So let me quickly, just to do a live demo here, I'm going to do I'll do the term frequency. Actually, maybe I'll ask people in the channel to pick a term or two. Of course, there's the delay. It's quite a long delay from when you type something in the chat to when I see it. But if you have anything, any word, or if multiple people answer, I'll do multiple words. But let me know if there's a particular word you want me to graph the frequency of by book in Lord of the Rings. Meanwhile, I'll just update this and say it's going to be 27. I want to use the term frequency by book. I don't know what I'm going to put here yet because you haven't told me. But either no one's typing or it's a really, really long delay. But I'll wait a little bit longer. I'm worried if it's like a minute or two, then any word that appears in Lord of the Rings. Wings. Okay, perfect. I'm just going to do wings. I won't waste people's time any longer. Wings. I'll do wings. Okay, so I'm just going to say I want the title to be wings, and the word that I want to search for is wings. And now I just go back here and I ask Belladonna to bake again. It skips all the other ones, so it doesn't waste any time and immediately just produces 27, and the gallery is ready. So let's go back to the gallery and see. And there we go. Mentions of wings by book of Lord of the Rings. So you can see it's slightly reduced in book 4, highest in book 6. So the only thing it's missing, as I said, is the ability to now say, go post this to social media. I'm really excited to do that bit because that's probably the most cumbersome bit of all. One of the things I still need to work out is how to do alt text because I want to make sure all of that's done as well. But yeah, this is really going to... My hope is that this means that I can produce these sorts of things, at least weekly, possibly even daily, because certainly there are certain little delvings like this that I could easily come up with tens or hundreds of them just by plugging in different words. So anyway, that's what I wanted to show you. I'm super excited about Belladonna. I'm also excited about that alignment tool that I built, even though I was actually running it slightly wrongly in it, which was causing the bug you saw with the jumping. But I'll continue to work on that, and that's going to be really helpful in terms of doing alignments of various versions. that's all I've got. I don't know if people have questions or ideas for things. If there are particular Little Delvings or any kind of visualization infographic that I've done in the past that's not yet supported in Belladonna, then let me know. I'm looking for sort of guidance in what people most enjoy seeing, and I can focus I can prioritize continued development based on what people most like to see. And then, in terms of individual arguments to pass in, words to try out and stuff like that, I'm also looking to for input on that. So I will actually right now, when we end this video, I will create a Belladonna channel in Discord. I don't know, because of the delay, I don't know the context. Does your cross-references still have a way to search for particular words and phrases? Okay, I need to work out the context in which, I wish there wasn't such a delay. It's frustrating. So I don't know the context of Tom's question. When you say, what about Túrin and the Foal? Okay. What about it? I don't know. You mean being able to search for things in it? Or I'm sorry, I missed the context. You're just asking about the state of my digitization of the text. So I do have a version of the Book of Lost Tales version of the Túrinsaga story that I will be at some point sort of aligning. Obviously, at some point, certain types of alignment, are never going to be kind of at the word level. They're going to be, this is where this event happened. And so there's some interesting things the state of the digitization is I basically have a bunch of these. So one of the points that I brought up, so this is actually in relation to that exact question. These were the steps that I went through to produce that text, that sort of idealized text. Because, of course, one of the really interesting things, I'll just mention this because I kind of think it's fun. I'm into narratology. Quite apart from all the different versions of the Túrin story, we also have this really interesting narratological thing where what we're reading in the Book of Lost Tales is Christopher's a framing of the manuscript, but the manuscript itself is just Tolkien's, according to his conceit, Tolkien's translation of the Golden Book of Tavrabel, which was in turn written by Ariel the Mariner. But that itself, what we're reading is actually Ariel's transcription of an oral tale that Eltas told on the second night of the festival, and Eltas makes it clear that he's just telling this story that's been handed down to him and so on. And so you've got these really interesting narratological levels. All that said, what we're focusing on, obviously, at the Digital Tolkien Project is the lost tale itself. What Tolkien translated the Golden Book of Tavrabel to be. So, yes, I have a text of that. And the way that I did it was I extracted the chapter from the Book of Lost Tales, Volume 2. I removed the introduction, the notes, and the commentary. Where Christopher presented alternatives, I had to choose which to include. I had to resolve inline editorial notes. So in a bunch of places, Christopher will indicate that he's guessing what the word is. So he puts it in square brackets with a question mark and that kind of stuff. Right, I want to strip that because I want a pristine version of the story. Now, arguably, from a scholarly edition point of view, you do still want to be able to refer to the sort of variant readings and so on. But at the core, you want a clean text. So, I do all these things, remove the footnotes. And also, for the purposes of doing the comparison to other versions, I also remove the frame story, right? Because that's not, that's the book of, the frame story only exists in these first two levels. I guess in a way what I'm trying to reconstruct is Elta's, the Tale of Túrinsaga, as told by Eltas, but as translated by Tolkien. So that hopefully addresses that question. Yes, in terms of the searching stuff, I should bring in searching to this. This was sort of, what I was trying to do here was more of a UI experiment more than anything else. It just so happens in the end I implemented persistent data persistence, so I could actually use this as a tool. But yes, it would be handy for me to be able to just search within this. Ultimately, this sort of thing I would love to put into a broader reading environment that had all the other sort of capabilities that I've envisaged for a really nice reading environment. But of course, that has the usual caveat that I can't at the moment share that with other people. Although that's my long-term goal. One of the things that I've considered is whether doing something like making it available at Marquette or something would get around, at least for the Lord of the Rings material, might work. That might not be acceptable for non-Lord of the Rings stuff. It also reminds me, though, I just want to point out that, and I've tweeted about this before, I'm sure other people would quite like to be able to generate these kinds of things, right? Where you can just produce a nice card that you can post to social media with your favorite Tolkien quote or whatever. Unfortunately, you can do that manually, and I can do that manually, and I can make a tool for me to use, but I can't let you use the tool to do that because that would involve exposing the text here. It's a strange paradox that you could post this and I can post this, but I can't give you the tool to post it. But anyway, so that's the alignment stuff, the text preparation stuff, and this is Belladonna. So thank you again to MG Coco for doing such an amazing job on this logo. It is exactly what I wanted. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much, everyone. This has been the longest one ever, but I hope you all enjoyed the stuff that I showed. I'm going to continue on with the Túrinsaga stuff, just making sure all the individual texts are in a state where they can be searched. They can be, there'll be a citation system for the individual stories and stuff like that. If you have particular things that you want to be able to do with the text, please let me know. Even if I can't yet fulfill my grand dream of giving you these amazing tools directly, there's a lot of things I can still build to help people. So if you've got ideas for the ways that you would like me to work with the Túrin text for now, because that's sort of the Túrin texts, because that's my focus at the moment, and that will extend to other parts of the legendarium over time. It's just me trying to do this single longitudinal thread through that story for the next few months. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll include some more links in the description, and I look forward to seeing many of you on Discord or in the next video. Bye-bye.